Welcome back to Void City Customs. I am Dan, and today we're going to be looking at something a little bit different than we usually do over on this show. This is the McFarlane Toys 1989 style Batmobile that actually came out with the Flash movie last year. This is the glossy black version, not the later re-release on Amazon with the 1989 figure that was in matte black and had a canopy that was the same color. This one has the paint issue with the canopy. However, I'm pretty happy with this guy overall right out of the box. Long story short, this guy has been in my storage unit up until now, ever since it arrived when I got the giant bundle of basically every piece of McFarlane merchandise that came out for the Flash movie. This one I was a little scared to open because I was afraid to see how bad the paint difference on the canopy was and also the goofy shape of it. We'll get to that later. But I was also afraid I might be one of the unlucky people who ended up with two of the same wing rather than a left and a right, because apparently that did happen to some unlucky individuals. So I'm glad I ended up avoiding that. This came out of the box basically exactly as you see it here. I just had to pop the wings on the back. Otherwise, it just came out fully assembled, just like this. It's actually a lot nicer than I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. I know a lot of people in their reviews had all sorts of different expectations and different problems with it and everything, but looking at it now, it's humongous. It scales better with the figure than I would have thought, although obviously there is the problem that it probably should be even bigger because it should also have two seats. This only has one seat. Otherwise, I think it looks pretty darn accurate. There are a few missing details that we will get to also in a moment as far as our customization goes. One thing I will show really quickly here is right out of the box. I was a little bit disappointed by this. I don't know if you'll notice right where that light shine is on the front of the hood there. Do you see those scuffs and that big scratch? Sorry, let me see if I can get this there. See, there's a scratch right under the light where it's shining on the hood of the car, the right side of the hood of the car. So there's a bunch of scuffs in the plastic. And then that big old kind of like scratch in there. So there was that. But, you know, it's the Batmobile. It's seen battles. So, you know, maybe it shouldn't look absolutely perfect. But it's hard to see in most lighting situations, but up close you do see it and it's kind of strange. The only other difference is, I bet you see it now in this light, the canopy. Not only is it an entirely different color than the whole rest of the car, it's also this goofy shape. It aims too far up and the window is way too big, and it just makes the whole thing look a little bit cartoony. Almost it looks a little bit more like Darkwing Duck's car than it looks like, I don't know, it just makes it look a little bit goofy, like big eyes or something, like Disney-fied. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but I thought it could look better than it does. So I know that for Toast, the '89 version of Batman, the suit at least, that's his favorite version of Batman. I'm not sure about Batmobile, but I want to say this is probably up there. I think he told me it was this and the animated series. For me, it's in the top three. I'm sure when I was a little kid it was number one because it was number one for everybody the first time they saw it. Since then there have been some pretty sick Batmobile designs, honestly, that have come out. I personally love the Tumbler from the Dark Knight series. I think that thing is awesome. I love how functional it actually turned out to be in real life, and that it was a real vehicle that could do, not all, but a decent amount of all the cool things you saw it do in the movie. I also really like the White Knight Batmobile, which both of those are being released by McFarlane soon, so stay tuned. I'm sure there will be reviews on this channel of both of those. I cannot wait to get those. This would be in the top three though. Not only do I like it in the movie, despite the fact that it only functions on completely flat level ground. I think if any bad guy went over some railroad tracks, Batman would be out of luck. I think he would bottom out this Batmobile and have to call Alfred for a tow truck. But it would have been fine because they could have had a commercial for it and tied it in with the movie, and they could have like thrown some Coca-Cola and like maybe could have gotten some drive-through. That would have been fine. You guys remember all those commercials? You also have to throw that Looney Tunes commercial in the beginning there about, you know, don't forget your Warner Brothers baseball cap. You can't watch the movie without that. You almost can't watch 89, the movie, without having those Warner Brothers and 1989, you know, Coca-Cola Batmobile ad in there with Alfred. Oh man. Well, anyways, back on topic. So this guy has also shown up in the White Knight series of graphic novels as well, and it is utilized incredibly well in that series. I won't spoil it really. I think you guys should all just pick up the White Knight trilogy of stories. Oh, they're all so great. Just get them. They're great. Pretty much every Batmobile shows up in that series of books and other Bat vehicle, and they're all put to great use by the entire Bat family. It's great. I'm off topic again. Holy cow. So this canopy needs to look better if this is going to represent this Batmobile on my shelf, which it is. It needs to be the right color, but more importantly, it needs to be the right shape. So it's not something I can just do myself here because I don't have a 3D printer. I don't have a way to reshape this really that would not look terrible. Online, I noticed there is this thing called a CAG set, and it's from Ramen Toy. This came from China, and it's basically an upgrade kit for this Batmobile that gives you an entirely new canopy. It also gives you the machine guns to go here because these don't flip out like the old toy. This is just all one piece flat. There's no guns here because they're not allowed to be guns. It's a Warner Brothers toy. So this gives you the guns that you can put on there. And it also gives you the missing gas caps that should be here and here on this Batmobile. There should be two little gas caps here. It gives you some little chrome gas caps. So there were two options for this. There was either the glossy version, which is what I have, so that's what I got, or the matte black version. When I ordered this, I don't know, about 3 weeks ago, there was none of the matte black version left. Sold out. And this, there were 7 left when I ordered this. I just checked the other day, none left. They are both sold out. So I don't know if there's another place where you guys can get these or what. I'm sure you could find them somewhere. People are still going to be making these kits. They're sought after. I'm sure they're available out there somewhere. Now I'm going to open it up and see what's in there for the first time. Excellent. Very cool. All right. So right off the bat, we've got these guns here, which I'll show you those later. Those just set right on top of the hood there and just kind of like lock in place with the shape that they flip out of. Here's these little gas caps. I'm going to put those on last, but those would go up right below the wings and the sides. And those just stick on with little 3M tape that's already on there, which is, you know, nice. I don't have to do any of that work. Here is the best part. Here is the hood. Look at this guy. Oh, nice. Much better. It's a much lower profile, which is the more correct shape, and it's glossy black. It matches the rest of the car. Oh, we're gonna put that down for a second. I didn't show you guys how this canopy works. It's pretty cool. So I guess if there's gonna throw a mini review into this thing, I like it. It's got rubber wheels. It feels light for how big it is, but at the same time, I think that's how they cut down on the price, so that it didn't have to be super expensive, again, for how big the damn thing is. There's not really many features other than this, which I think is well worth it. There's this little button right here. I don't know if you see that. You push that, and it basically pops open the canopy, and then that comes out and it slides forward like it did in the movie. So it actually kind of works the way it's supposed to. Well, that's locked in place inside there. You can't really get it out without taking this whole car apart. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take this car apart and we're going to install this new canopy. I'm going to show you what it looks like with the guns on there, and I'm going to install the gas caps at the very end. Now, full disclosure, I did watch a video before starting this recording about how to do this, just so I knew what to do and I didn't screw anything up. It's fairly straightforward, fairly simple. The one thing I will say is just be very patient and, you know, just be careful when you're doing this. I would recommend, if you're doing this, to probably do it before you put the wings on. It would just make it a lot easier. You wouldn't have to be handling it as carefully as I have had to handle it so far in the steps that I've already done. But just be careful. You don't want to break those wings off, because I imagine, like every Batmobile toy you've ever had since you were a little kid, these wings can snap off, and then you'll just have to like crazy glue them on, like I did with my, what was that, Kenner Batmobile, my 1992 one, which was the awesome one with the missile that shot out and the guns that flipped open and the actual canopy. It wasn't a convertible like the 89 original one was for some goofy reason. You pressed these vents on the back and fire shot out the back. Oh, it was the sickest toy. And the very first thing that broke, there's just like 2 little tabs that held the wings on the back, and they just broke right off. Anyways, I'm always off topic on these things. That's why we need Toast here. He helps keep me on topic. So yes, like I was saying, just be careful while you're handling this guy, and just keep the canopy locked in place. Just leave it right on there. It'll stay pretty steady and firm. The other thing is maybe wear gloves or something. I don't really have any right here to wear. Otherwise I probably would. Like cotton gloves even maybe, or just something, because I don't know about the matte black version, but this glossy one, man, it is a fingerprint magnet. They get all over the darn thing. Whatever, it'll be worth it because it's going to look way better, and honestly probably like it should have from the beginning. I really don't understand why the canopy is shaped like this. I can kind of get, oh, they messed up on the paint. They're trying to paint over a clear piece of plastic. Maybe they screwed it up. They forgot they had to make it darker to account for the fact that it's clear. I don't really know what happened there. No one's ever really offered a really good explanation for it. I just don't quite get why they shipped like this, other than they kind of had to. It's a mystery, but it's going to be solved very shortly. So the very first step is you have to remove all the screws from the bottom of the Batmobile, and there are 11 of them. They are little itty bitty screws, which I have already taken out. They're, you know, incredibly small, just like these little guys. There's 11 of them. So make sure you keep those all together. So this is all kind of just one big bottom panel, and as I found out a second ago, it lifts off very easily. So I think I'm just going to do that now. And look at that. There's your inside of Batmobile. This is not anything we need right now, so that can just get right on out of here. Now what you're left with is the top of the Batmobile here. Let me move this out of the way so I don't break it by accident before I even get to put it on here. So you got the top of this Batmobile right here, and if you flip it over, you'll see the inside here. Now, this is the first time I'm seeing this. I have not gone this far yet in this process, so this is all new from here on out for me as well. So you got the inside here. There is basically the cockpit. There's going to be this screw here, and then there's going to be these 2 screws right here. You're going to remove those next, so I'm going to do that now. And to do that, I have been using just a little screwdriver like this. Now, I'd kind of recommend maybe a heavier duty one. You're going to want a long, thin one like this, because there are a couple screws that are very way up in there, and if you don't have a screwdriver that is long like this and thin, it's not going to be able to reach those. Make sure it is the right size, because you don't want to strip these little screws. They are in there very tightly. Mine were, at least. That's why I did that in advance, and I'm glad I did, because I would have had to been recording this for like half an hour, just me pulling screws out of here. It took a while. They were very tight, and because this is such a thin little handle, it's ripped up my fingers something fierce. So I'd recommend one with a bigger handle that's easier to grip onto, so you can get more leverage on there and get those out of there. I probably wouldn't use any kind of power tool necessarily, because again, these are just cheap little goofy screws. You don't want to strip them, because then you won't be able to put them back in. But when you put them back in, maybe don't put them in as tightly as they were the first time. There's no need for that. They didn't need to be put in there like Superman put them in there. Like, it's insane. Anyways, time to take these 3 screws out, and let's see what happens next. Okay, success. Those ones were also in there, extremely tight. So be careful doing this again, because some of this plastic, like I said, it can be thin. This gets a little bit brittle now, so just now that the bottom's not in there and there's not a lot holding it together and giving it more structural integrity, just be careful. Patience is always key when you're customizing. It is your #1 friend, always, no matter what type of customization you're doing. There are also small parts involved in this section of the tutorial, And there's a spring, so you're going to want to be careful. So you lift this guy out first. Now, this is your cockpit in there, where his one little chair, not two, sits right on the floor, and his feet go there, I guess. So that's basically that. It's very simple. So that just lifted right out. So now this is where you're going to want to be a little bit more careful. I'm going to put this on the side. So in here, first thing you're going to want to do is remember the placement of this guy, this part right here, because this is very important. This is like the release and how all this stuff works, right? And there's a spring in there. So you want to take this guy out and just make sure you keep it in a way where you'll remember exactly how that goes. The next part you want to take out is this little thing right here. This is the button that you actually push down. This is just the other side of it. Take that guy out and put that on the side. Next part you want to take out, because it'll probably just fall out anyways, is the steering wheel part right here. So that comes out, and that's just his steering wheel and all his gauges and all that fun stuff. Let's see, is that even articulated? It's not, so the steering wheel does not move. Whatever, that's fine. It doesn't really have to. The wheels don't move, so why would the steering wheel have to? Now, all you've got left as far as pieces go, well, be careful, because some of these pieces, they're just kind of tabbed in here. They can fall out, so just make sure if you're going to be doing stuff that you're not going to have these things fall out. These lights appear to be punched in there pretty good, so I'm not too worried about them. Same with the front lights, but just be careful. Some of this stuff could possibly fall out, so just make sure you're paying attention for that. Next, this right here is where the old canopy is locked into the hood of the car. So just kind of push on that from the inside, and that basically does the same thing as unlocking it would, and then that flips right out. So now you can just remove this old canopy right out of there. And that was actually very simple. This whole thing is actually a pretty simple switch out. So you just be careful, because it's little thin plastic pieces. You don't want to snap them, especially because I can't get any more of these, so I'm going to be very careful here. But otherwise, this has been quite easy. So now I've got my new canopy. I'm just going to put that basically right back in and line that back up on the track with these little circles the way the old one was. Push that back down. Turn this over. I'm just going to pop that down in there for now. That is locked in place. Let's just get a little preview here. Oh, that's so much better. Oh my goodness, I'm just looking at this through the other camera screen. I don't even want to see it till it's done. I have very high hopes that this is a very nice upgrade. I thank the internet for showing this to me. Now we're going to take the steering wheel. I'm going to put that back in. I'm going to put my button back in right there. That is in place. I'm going to take back in the lever with the spring mechanism. Put that right back in place right there where it was. And last, being very careful again to not damage the wings or my new canopy. Lay that down gently. That's why I have these paper towels here, kind of cushion this. I'm going to put this cockpit right back on. Now I'm going to put the screws back in. So stay tuned. Okay, all three screws are now back in place. The cockpit's back where it should be. Everything's locked in as far as I can tell. Let's just double check before we put this whole thing back together. Already covered in fingerprints. How disappointing. Whatever. I want to just make sure that this works right. So that unlocks, pops up, slides out. And it matches the rest of the car and is the correct shape. This is fantastic. Let's pop this back in here. All right, so next, really all there is to do is just put the bottom back on and the wheels. So I've grabbed that and I'm just gonna lift this guy up. It's very simple. Just put that down there and line it back up. Snaps basically right back where it needs to go. Nothing even really like clips in place. It's just fits right in there, but it will fall right back out again. So be careful when you turn it over. And I'm going to put the screws back in the bottom there. There are 11 screws total. There are 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 2 here, 1 in this middle, and this one is the farthest one up in there. So that's again why you need that really skinny screwdriver to be able to get this guy. And there's 2 here on the very back. So I'm going to put those back in right now. I'm going to be very patient and take my time so that I don't break anything. And stay tuned. Okay, here we go. I'm going to have to say that is quite improved. I mean, look at that profile now. It's so much more accurate. The color is correct now. It's no longer that strange gray color. It actually matches the rest of the car. I appreciate that they went out of their way to make sure that it was the correct finish. That is a proper upgrade if I have ever seen one. Let's take a look at these machine guns. So one thing I noticed when I took these out of the baggies is that the bullets had fallen out of one of the machine guns. Now it seems like these ones are a little bit loose too. I think you might just be able to snap them in and out. So if you want them, you can add them. If you don't want them, you don't have to have them. Let's find out. Let's see if we can put that back in there. It's just these little chain of bullets and the gun right there. Oh, okay, yeah. So it just snaps right back in there. That's really cool. It snaps in the side and then it goes down in here, so it looks like they're feeding right out of the side of the car. Same with this one. They're feeding right into the side. Feels like this one can come out as well, so that's fine. And these, it's very simple actually. They just lay right down on the top of these shapes that are already there. And it basically holds them in place because there's a circle right here and that just holds it right on and just sit right on there. So that's pretty nifty. So now it has the machine guns on it as well, like it had in the scene in 1989. We'll take those off for this next little bit. So the last little bit we have to look at is these chrome gas caps. Now, it's hard to see it in the movie. I haven't gone back and looked at it with a microscope or anything. There are supposed to be little gas caps here. Pretty much every other toy of this Batmobile that I've ever owned or seen has them basically molded into the black plastic, kind of similarly to how these are, or like these shapes here on the side. They're just kind of like etched in, like here's a rectangle and a circle in the middle of it. I don't think I've ever seen them separate or chrome, except for maybe very rare cases where there possibly was like a die-cast version or something. But I like that these are silver. I think it helps make them stand out a little bit. I do think they're maybe a little bit too big, but I also like that they'll break it up a little bit more on this car and give it just one more little bit of detail that help it stand out. So it'll help it kind of match a little bit with the silver details on the sides here. And so in the end, I think it's just fine. I'm probably going to place them right about there because that looks to be about perfect to me. As I mentioned earlier, they come with some little 3M tape already on the back in there, so you just have to peel off that back layer and stick them on. So I'm going to do that right now. All right, success on that side. Let's make sure we get this as close to the same measurement as possible. All right, well there you have it. There are those chrome gas caps thrown on there. I think they look pretty nice after all. And overall, I am completely satisfied with this Batmobile now. Not only do I have the options to have some of the accessories, but the canopy being improved not only in color and in shape with the added gas caps for that little chrome effect. It just makes this toy seem a lot more worth the price point. Hopefully this video was informative for anyone trying to do this upgrade. I now have this. It will be on my shelf. It is up behind all the comic book versions of the characters. I'm going to have this basically next to the White Knight Batmobile once that arrives. I think they will look nice next to each other on the shelf with all the comic book versions of the characters, given that it did appear in the White Knight trilogy so prominently. I think it's fine to include it there as well. I think it got a lot more use in that series than it did in the 2 movies it was featured in anyways. I guess 3 movies it was featured in if you count The Flash, where this actually technically came from. But all it did was sit there and some guy looked at it for a second and then you never saw it again. Basically what you saw in the commercial for The Flash, if you've never seen the movie, where he takes the sheet off of the thing, that's it. That's the whole scene. That's its involvement in the movie. So it's funny that it got a toy and General Zod didn't.
I will find him. I will find him.
Maybe someday. Maybe he will do Man of Steel figures and we will get General Zod. We can only hope. They went back and did The Dark Knight, so... And now we're getting Batman v Superman, so let's hope General Zod's coming soon.
I will find him!
Let me know if you guys have any comments or questions about this particular upgrade or just this Batmobile in general from McFarlane Toys. I am very happy with it. Someday I hope to open the Batwing as well, and I'm hoping that is as fun as this is, and maybe there's some upgrades for that out there somewhere too, who knows. Anyways, thanks for tuning in today and watching as I upgraded this Batmobile, and I hope you had fun. I know I did. I'm going to enjoy looking at this guy on the shelf with all the figures, and I think with these upgrades it makes it far more worthy of having that spot on the shelf. I really dig it, so I hope you guys do too. I am Dan, and I will see you next time here at Void City Reviews, and in particular, Void City Customs. See you next time.